Alright guys, I got this clutch disc back together somewhat. I don't know what the torque specs are supposed to be on this, so I'm just going to snug them up and get all the tightening them down a little bit. Alright guys, I got this thing stuck back together finally. I'm not all the way done, but I don't know what the torque specs is on any of this or the adjustment or anything, so I'm kind of winging it here. So I can't really tell you how to do it or describe it. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. But anyway, you want your PTO clutch to be loose like that, obviously, have a little slack in it. I don't know what the measurement is on that, but it just needs to turn freely in there like that. And that's adjusted from the factory with these nuts, so I'm not going to touch any of that. And when you push your PTO on, what it does is it pushes on these here. You can see that plate move, and it clamps that load, or your PTO pressure plate, it clamps that on these forks here and pinches that on so it can't move right there. So anyway, I'm not going to adjust any of that because it's just like it was from the factory. I don't see any reason to mess with it. The other ones here I do need to look at a little closer, the ones for the drive plate, because there's nothing here. You can tighten these up too much and that adjusts your fingers. So I'm going to measure, put a straight edge across my tractor transmission bell housing over here and measure the distance in with a tape measure to the throwout bearing in there, and then I'm going to measure the distance from the engine block when I mount this to the inners here that work the clutch part of this, or those three, yeah, and see that I want an 1/8 inch clearance is what I want between, or roughly that, between this pad and when it contacts the throwout bearing in there is usually pretty good. You don't want it to be, you don't want your throwout bearing riding on these because it's going to release tension off the clutch disc and it's going to put wear on your throwout bearing also. So that's about the only way I know. Like I say, I don't know what the spec is on this. I'm just going off of what little I know about it. So anyway, I'm going to do that, get a measurement, measure this, and then I will tighten these up, or well, the three that don't have a spring on it, in order to, that changes the pressure on this. It changes the distance on your arms here. So let me get a tape measure and I will check that out. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to stick a straight edge across here, like I said. I'm going to measure from the throwout bearing. And I got 7 7/8. That's what I got depth-wise right there. So we want to see about 7 3/4 on the stick out on the other side here when we measure off of our clutch to there. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and get that mounted up. Jeez Louise. Okay, I got 2 of them stuck there. Man, that thing's heavy. Alright, I gotta get these tabs straightened up just a little bit so I can get the bolts in there. And I got to figure out how to line that clutch disc up in there also, because I don't have a clutch line-up tool. All the money I spent, and they won't even send you one. Isn't that something? I'm going to have to do the best that I can by eyeballing it. Trying to look at the ridge on that clutch disc around the outside edge, figure out about where it goes there. Alright guys, I got the clutch stuck up here, and I got to set the finger height, and as I said before, I don't know what Mahindra recommends on that, but what I'm going to do is set it 1/8 of an inch less than the depth inside the belt housing there. So I've got to get me a measurement somewhere. They all 3 need to be set the same. I got to get a measurement from somewhere off here to where 7 3/4 is at, because that's 7 7/8. Trying to figure out where to get an accurate measurement go off of, because I need to know off of the block here. So if I'm 7 1/4 off of the block to the plate here, I need to be a 1/2 inch further out than that plate from the arm. I'll have to figure out here and get me a method going on here. So I'm gonna measure there. That's 7. Well, it's 7 1/8. That's across the face of the plate, like that. So I should be able to measure 7 1/8 and add 5/8 to that. So my arm should be 5/8 above this plate. If that makes sense. I just got to figure out how to get that measurement. I'll probably measure off that clutch disc right there. If I subtract a measurement there, got 1 1/8 on the clutch disc from the bottom of the level. So if I take 1 1/8 and add 5/8 to it, that gives me 1 3/4 inches. That's what I'm looking at here. And the way I'm getting that is from the block to the bottom of the level, 7 1/8. From the bottom of the level to the clutch disc is 1 1/8. So you subtract the 1 1/8 off of your 7 1/8. Gives you 6 inches. And then you add back from the clutch disc back out 1 3/4 inches would be 1/8 inch shy of what your depth is in there. So that would make this 1/8 of an inch less than that. So if we set our arms to 1 3/4 inches to the pad height right here, we should be good. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Hope that makes sense. A little bit confusing. A little bit confusing for me too. So let me get my tape measure here. We are at about 1 5/8 inches right there. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do is, these here are tightened up already. I may go ahead and stake them just because there's a step bolt on these and they're non-adjustable or whatever. But anyway, for good measure. These here have a flat spot in them where you can stake them. So that's what I'm going to do. So that it can't self-adjust. That makes sense. That's what we'll go ahead and do all 6 of them, even though the ones with the springs have a shoulder. There's a flat spot on these studs here. And what I'm doing is knocking the edge of that nut into that flat spot to lock the nut on there. That should keep these from self-adjusting themselves back off and coming apart. The next step is I got some 3% moly grease. 5% is better if you have any, find any. And I'm going to put some of this on the splines, the clutch splines here. Not a lot, just a little bit to help things slide freely. Put a little bit on the pilot bearing area too, just to help it slide in a little better. And Like I say, you don't want a whole lot on there because it will melt and get on your clutch disc. You don't want that, but you do want just a little bit of something on there, usually to keep the clutch from sticking to your input shaft, and then you have issues with the clutch not releasing, so you don't want that either. Alright guys, I got the sealant on the silicone on the bell housing there, and I'm getting ready to slide it together. It looks like the back half's a little low or the front's a little high. Whatever we got to do, we're going to try to get it adjusted out and see if I can roll her together there. Ease the front down like that and get her a little closer. Looks like I might have to come down a little more. A little more yet still. I believe the back of the tractor has worked itself down, because that's tilted way below level right there. So probably gonna have to figure out how to jack the back of the tractor up right there, and then jack the front back up a little bit as well. Let me grab another jack over here wherever it's at. Go back up on the front jack. It'll look a little better. A little more. It's one of those times that definitely pay to have a second hand, but I don't have one today. Broke the darn wheel on the jack. I needed to come up with the back just a little bit. Alright guys, I got the drive shaft in there. You can see the rear coupler back there, the center bearing, and the front coupling here, which I drilled the hole out and put a bolt through the shaft. Got 2 washers on each side, a lock washer and 2 nuts on it. I think it'll be fine. And even with the shaft in there between these roll pins, the shaft has got movement back and forth this way a little bit. I pulled it all the way forward, and then your center bearing has got a lock collar on it. So I slid the shaft all the way forward and then put the lock collar on. That gives me the most spline engagement up here because they wore the most. The rear looked okay.
as far as just shaft splines, but these did have just a little bit of wear. It wasn't much, but I figure any extra little bit would help, and I would think that should be okay right there. It's probably a lot better than trying to weld it, and as you can see, all the moly grease on it. That should really help out. I think from the factory, if they would have put a grease zerk in this thing, it wouldn't have this issue, but that's beside the point. But that's what it is right now, so hopefully that'll hold up. I still got to put all my covers. There's a shaft cover that goes over this. I got to put all that on there. But I just wanted to show this while you could see it.